Hello! I'm super excited to be able to share my recital with you in the coming week. And since I've been putting in just over a year of preparation for this, I thought that I'd let you guys have a little bit of thought before you were able to experience it with me. So for the next few days I'll be sharing some videos about the pieces that I'll be playing and about my thoughts about my program. So to start off today, this little video will be talking about the concept behind the music that I chose. So as you look at the music, I have 4 pieces on my program. Each of them, for me, fit into a theme that I wanted to share. And this is the theme of change. This is the end of my college career, and a lot has changed in the past, 5 years that I've been here at school and experiencing lots of changes in my life. And so the program, each piece experiences changes, but they're in different ways. So the program consists of Bach's, or a little section of Bach's Easter Oratorio. I'll be playing a small section that's an oboe solo, and then a later section with a friend who is singing an aria, and I will be playing with her. So really, Bach's Easter Oratorio is actually kind of the center of the change of my life. It talks about the change that we can experience through Christ. And especially at this time when Easter is approaching and we're thinking about Christ and the changes that are available through his resurrection and atonement, this piece really means a lot to me and has really impacted my life in the last couple of years. The second piece on the program is Goossens' Oboe Concerto. It's a 20th century work, and in it you will see themes that run through it, but they are continually changed through the piece. And really, I see this as a depiction of country life as it changes. Goossens was born and raised in England, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a later video, but he was affected by the wars that ran through Europe. And I feel that you can really hear that throughout his piece. The third piece on my program actually mentions change in its name. It's called Six Metamorphoses, after Ovid. It's by Benjamin Britten. So right there, Metamorphoses. It's actually a piece of six little pieces that are all bound together by that theme, that they tell a story about a metamorphosis that happens, and they're all based off of stories from Greek mythology. The last piece on my program is an extremely fun piece by Pasculli, who was a virtuosic oboist in his time, and he based this piece off of an opera by Donizetti called La Favorita. And this concerto is just a lot of fun, and you'll hear in it as the themes dramatically change and play around with each other, and there's lots of variation to what's happening. It's very, very technical, but a lot of fun as well. So I hope that you will enjoy, as I will share some more of my thoughts throughout this week and leading up to the recital. And of course, I hope that you'll join me, if not at the time when I'm performing it live later. And hopefully this section that I'm sharing with you will make the experience that you'll have at my recital so much more impactful, because it's not just the hour that I get to share some music with you, but it's the hours and the days and the months and the whole year that I've spent thinking about and preparing this recital so that it can have meaning to you. And I think that's especially impactful at this time when all of our lives are going through a lot of great change. But I think that, as I have found with my repertoire and as my experience through college, that change can be a very good thing and can help us grow and experience wonderful things in our life. So I'm excited to share more with you, and I'll see you soon.
geschwinde, Saget, wo ich Jesu finde, wo ich Jesu finde, wo ich Jesu finde, Saget, wo ich Jesu finde, welche meine Seele befragt, wo ich Jesu finde, welche meine
Hello! Today I'd like to share a little bit about the second piece on my program, Goossens' Oboe Concerto in one movement. This piece is going to be very different from the piece that I will play just previous to it, the Bach. It's an oboe concerto written in the 20th century. So the musical styles at that time were vastly different than what was used in the Baroque period. It was a time of really stretching the limits, both technically and tonally, of music. And so you're going to hear a lot of very interesting colors and scales and chords in the accompaniment and in my part as well. To give you a little background on this piece was actually written by a brother for a brother. Eugène Goossens was a famous pianist and conductor in England, and his brother was a virtuosic oboist who was really opening up the world technically and tone-wise for the oboes. And so he had actually asked for a lot of new works by composers of the time to broaden the soloistic repertoire, and that would fulfill his incredible technical abilities. So his brother wrote this piece for him, and it really exemplifies all that Leon was trying to do to broaden the oboe, making it a very virtuosic and beautiful in tone and timbre and style. The beautiful singing lines that you'll hear throughout this piece, as well as the very flashy and kind of finger twisting lines, were really something that Leon had been promoting in the oboe world and was pretty fabulous at. So this piece has a lot of very technical difficulties for me, and has taken a long time to get under my fingers, but it has been such a joy to learn. I think that this piece, for me, for my interpretation, and this is not historically verified, but how I feel about the piece, it really shows the movement throughout a life and the changes that occur throughout a life as different experiences occur. So you'll hear in this, there's a main theme that runs through da-da-dum, da-da-da-dum, this kind of upward moving scale that you'll hear at the very beginning, arpeggiated scale that I will play. And it runs throughout the piece, but it changes. So this concerto was written in 1929, after World War I, and Eugène was not able to serve in the war as he had some health problems, but Leon did put his career off to serve in that great war. And so you hear this first theme that's very pastoral. I think of English countrysides with the green rolling hills, but then after that comes a section that is really fiery. It has a lot of runs, a lot of harsh accents, and kind of a pounding rhythm in the accompaniment. And I really see this as something that they might have felt in their life, the experience of war, and after it kind of runs through their life, things start to calm down, and then we get a little bit of a reprise of the very first beginning theme, but it feels different, and it is different. The accompaniment is different. And then life continues on, and there's a slower, more ponderous section, maybe a more serious part of life. And then the ending cadenza kind of brings all of those together. You hear all of the different themes that have occurred during the piece, and they're all brought together, all changed because of the other themes that have been added in. And I really feel that it's like life. Right now we're experiencing things that we've never experienced before. And it will leave a lasting influence on our life. It will change the way how we see life. There will still be that green pasture, but it might look a little bit different. We might walk down it a little bit differently. So I'd like to invite you now to think about what this experience that we are having with COVID-19 is doing to your life, how it's changing your life, and what you will learn from it. In the end, Goossens ends his piece triumphantly and in a really upbeat, kind of joyous ending. And I hope that we all can have that as we go through these experiences and find out how it will change us and what will happen, but also in what good ways it will change us. So I'd love to hear some of your comments and hope you enjoy this. The third piece on my program is Britten's Metamorphosis, 6 Metamorphoses after Ovid. This is one of my favorite concert pieces for oboe. It's an unaccompanied oboe piece, which has struggles of its own because it's just me. So that means I have to create the accompaniment and the melody and the mood, and I get really no breaks. It's just me. But it's such a fun piece because each movement of this piece is based off of a story from Greek mythology. And as the name states, each of these stories have something to do with a metamorphosis. So I'm going to go through each movement to give you a little bit of light as to what I'm thinking about these pieces. And I should mention also that this was written by Benjamin Britten in 1951. So this is another 20th century piece, and so he uses a lot of different really interesting methods to create different colors and moods and themes to really bring to life these stories. So the first movement, number 1, is called Pan. This movement is all about the Greek god Pan, who was the god of the wild. He was just a very free spirit, lived out in the woods, but also had some big character flaws. He really loved chasing women, and this is what happens in this story. He ends up chasing a wood nymph, and you'll hear in the music him running after her as the notes get quicker and quicker, and then missing her, and then finding her again and running after her again and chasing until finally in this story the wood nymph is changed into a reed pipe. And so just as he thinks he's about to catch her, instead he finds a flute in his hands, which, being the wild god that he is, he gets excited, plays the flute, and runs off to his next adventure. So that's the first metamorphosis. The second one is about Phaeton. This is a story about a demigod whose father is the god who brings the sun across the sky. And he also had a character flaw of pride. He wanted to see if he could take the sun himself and ride it across the sky and show all of his friends. His father says no, but eventually gives in, and what we find is a wild ride, and that's what I play. You'll hear the horses running across the sky, and even a point where he gets a little too high and is floating. But that brings his downfall because as he was warned, the horses will start to run away, and it turns into a crazy ride in the end, which throws him off of the chariot because of a big thunderbolt that Zeus sends to stop the sun from being pulled into the atmosphere. And he ends up falling into a river, and you hear that at the end, very masterfully done by Britten. The third one is a very tender piece that I feel like really shows different stages of grief. It's called Niobe. It's about a woman who was a very prideful queen with lots and lots of children. Unfortunately, this pride led her to boasting, and the goddess of fertility was not very happy with that. And so she punished this woman who had been making fun of her and killed all of her children. And in the end, as she is weeping over her children, and grieving, which you hear in this piece, she ends up having no emotion left in her and turns into stone or into a mountain. The fourth one, we get a little bit of fun, but maybe too much, is called Bacchus. God of partying, god of wine, also god of insanity, probably for many reasons. He had a very tragic past, and that probably led to a lot of his partying. In this story, you'll hear him already gone through a transformation, being drunk, and you'll hear others at his party. It says young boys jumping and women's tattling tales, and you hear all of that. And eventually you hear him kind of lumbering around and maybe trying to get up, and finally at the very end he's able to get up and leave the bar. So kind of a little bit of fun, and big transformation happened there. In the fifth movement, Narcissus, it talks about the god who was in love with himself. At the beginning you hear him as he's wandering around, happy with life, but then he sees an image of himself, and Britten masterfully writes this image right into the music. He falls in love with his image, so much so that he forgets the world, falls into himself, and becomes no more than that image. The last one, Arethusa, is about a water nymph and a river god who chases her. As she runs away, and you can hear the waves pulling her and pushing her and her running, she finally finds a place to hide and is trembling. And it says that she starts to sweat and cry, and you can hear that trembling in the music. Finally, she is caught. Right before she is caught, the gods take pity on her and transform or metamorph her into a glorious fountain. And she bubbles up and starts flowing off. And you hear that kind of triumphant ending as she becomes free and flows away. It's a really powerful piece. And I think as we look at each of the characteristics of change that these people choose to have, or the character flaws that they fall into, we can think about our own characteristics and see how they are changing us, and maybe some things that we want to change so that we can have different changes in our life. I hope you enjoy Six Metamorphoses. This is Six Metamorphoses after Ovid by Benjamin Britten. There's 6 movements of this, and each one tells a little bit of a story. The first one is Pan, who played upon the reed pipe, which was Syrinx, his beloved. The second one is Phaeton, who rode upon the chariot of the sun for one day and was hurled into the river Padus by a thunderbolt. The third one is Niobe, who, lamenting the death of her 14 children, was turned into a mountain. The fourth piece is Bacchus, at whose feasts is heard the noise of gaggling women's tattling tongues and shouting out of voice. is Narcissus, who fell in love with his own image and became a flower. The sixth one is Arethusa, who, flying from the love of Alpheus, the river god, was turned into a fountain. Hello! I'm here to talk about the last piece on my program, which, if you have made it past the intermission and enjoyed Britten, you are really in for a treat. I added this as kind of a grand finale. It is just a piece that is full of fun. This is Pasculli's concerto that's based off of the opera La Favorita by Donizetti. And, as you would expect from something based off of an opera, it's going to just be a lot of drama and a lot of cheek and tongue and just kind of playing around. I will tell you a little bit about this piece so you'll understand why it is the way it is. The person who wrote it, Pasculli, was a very famous virtuosic oboist in the Romantic era. And many will liken him to Paganini on the violin. So he really extended all the techniques, and it might have been one of the most brilliant oboists that has been alive. All of his pieces really show that very virtuosic and kind of crazy technique that he had, and most of them require some sort of extended technique. Not only are the fingerings crazy and all of the fast moving notes and runs and interesting things that he puts in his music, not only are they technically hard, but you also have to add in a lot of flexibility in the reed and in your embouchure, plus a little bit of help with the breathing. So if I do this performance right, you will hear a technique called circular breathing, where I actually play music while I breathe. So you'll just hear a page of music and it sounds like I don't breathe during the entire page. I am, though, just not so that you can hear it. So if I do it right, and I hope I will tomorrow, maybe it would be a fun challenge for you to figure out where I breathe when it sounds like I'm not. Anyways, to share a little bit more about this piece, Pasculli loved opera during his time, and he would often write his own pieces to showcase his own virtuosic abilities, basing them off of beloved operas. So this is one of his pieces. You wouldn't guess from the concerto that he wrote, but this opera that he based it off of is actually a tragedy in the end. It's like all opera, it's based off of love, jealousy, revenge, and some people die at the end, and no one gets to be with who they love. Pretty standard opera. But in the midst of that, there are soaring melodies and fun dances, and he and Pasculli uses all of these beautiful melodies to create a really fun kind of theme and variations, where the theme continues to change and to be elaborated and built upon to create something really amazing. So you'll hear that change of the melody all throughout the piece. And really, as I've been thinking about my experience here at school, there are a lot of crazy times in school and in life in general. I will say, like, preparing for this recital, yes, I've had several emotional breakdowns and times when I didn't think that I would make it, and really a lot of struggles with my own abilities, trying to figure out what I could do to make this work. But in the end, all of those struggles can build together to really create something beautiful, as I kept working and now have the final product to be able to share with you. And so in the end, that craziness can be, as I look back, I can think of all the things that I experienced and all of the joys as well that I found in it, and all of the fun that I had. And so I hope that this last piece kind of shows you how, even though there are so many crazy changes in our lives, they can also bring us a lot of fun. So be excited for this last piece, and I'm excited to see you all tomorrow. listening in. I hope you enjoyed it. Now I'm gonna go take a break. For this last little video that I'm making, I've been sharing a lot about the music that has been inspiring to me to make this performance possible, but now I want to mention some of the people that have inspired and encouraged me and really made this experience that you're about to experience with me possible. I'm sure that I cannot say all of the people who have impacted me, but I'd like to mention just a few of them. First, my collaborators, people who are helping behind the scenes and on stage as well to make this possible. As you saw earlier, I posted some fabulous illustrations that were done by Cassie Hooper Glacier, who's a great friend and a wonderful illustrator. I'm super excited to have been able to create some art with her. I also wanted to mention Lauren Paulson, who is a fabulous photographer and a wonderful friend, whose picture is on the event page of this, and other pictures that she has so masterfully taken of me and my instrument. Another person I really want to thank is my aunt, Karen Jeffries, who's a wonderful seamstress who helped to modify my dress so that it fit my standards, and also was comfortable so that I could play in it. Also, you won't get to see him, but the wonderful Paul Schwartz will be doing my audio and video, making the experience a wonderful one for you. And also, you'll be able to see videos later that we will make from his wonderful work. And then I'd like to thank the Northampton Reception Center for hosting me and many other people during this, during the COVID-19 crisis that we are facing, so that we can still have a beautiful venue to perform our music in and share it with you all. And of course, I'd like to thank the two wonderful ladies that will be performing with me tonight. Sydney Frodsham will be singing with me in as part of the Bach Oratorio. And of course, my fabulous accompanist, Madeline Montgomery, who has really encouraged me and been a wonderful collaborator over the past couple months as we have worked through this music, and is just a joy to play with. Now I'd like to make a few thank yous. First of all, thank you to all of the wonderful music teachers that I have had throughout the years in choirs and piano and oboe, who have really made this possible for me to expand my musical career and skills. Also, I just wanted to thank all of the wonderful musical students that I have met, both outside of BYU and, of course, the student body of BYU. I have loved and been inspired by their influence in my life and their musical abilities that they have shared with me. I'd also like to especially thank the Oboe studio at BYU. I've loved being a part of it. Those who have moved on, those who are still there, and those who will come. It has been an incredible experience for me to learn and grow and be supported by the wonderful students in the BYU Oboe studio. And of course, I couldn't say this thank you without thanking my wonderful family, my siblings, and also my parents who support me and come to my concerts and encourage me and are doing so many things that you don't know about to make this recital and my education in general a really wonderful experience. And then the last huge thank you. I honestly could not have imagined a better mentor for me these past few years, but my wonderful teacher, Geralyn Giovannetti, has seen the potential in me that I have, even when I haven't, and has encouraged and blessed my life, and I really would not be here without her influence. So a huge thank you to her, and also for her helping me see the joy and the love of music that she has passed on to me and many, many in the School of Music. So a huge, huge thank you to her. I will miss her guidance very much. And now, I hope you enjoy my recital, and I'm so excited to see all of your comments, and just excited to have you experience this with me.